my own framework, no, my own library, because it's this tiny, library that you can just use if you want something that gives you that little bit of abstraction with, reasonable structures in place. Think of it like Express and Node.js. You get. So Express is this tiny library that is written on top of the Node.js HTTP server to, it gives you this handy helper methods like request.send, request.ok, and things like that. So I wrote something like that I'm using to actually power my full-blown framework, which I will talk about probably towards the end of this video. The purpose of this video is to, let you guys know that for backend is actually something that's doable and you can actually build shit with this. All right, so enough of the talking. I want to introduce you guys to Faral. I have been working tirelessly on Faral since I got laid off from my work. Yeah, that's another story. Basically, Faral is like, it looks very similar to Express, almost the same, like, it has a good amount of tests and you can basically write like a simple, HTTP server with this. And I'm just going to jump right into the code. I don't really want to bore you guys with a lot of talking. All right, so this is the code base and I'm just going to head into this code and show you guys a sneak peek of what it's like to use Faral for your development. All right, so I'm just going to go into my test and add hello app dot that, and then let me make this a little big. Okay, I can still see myself good here. All right, so basically in a dot application you need your main entry point, which is the main function, and then I need an instance to my Faral library. It's a library, you can call it a framework, but then it's primarily a library, just an abstraction on top of the dot HTTP server. So I'm going to get an instance of Faral here, just like how you do in Express. You have an instance of Express, and then over here I want to register a route, which should be a get route, a simple route, which should just be on the base path, and then I want to do, when the request comes, I want to do request.ok, and this is going to be send a hello world. So this is a simple, server with a base path, which is supposed to return a text response, hello world, with the fire emoji. And then what do I need to do now? I need to await. So I need to mark this as asynchronous, and then I need to do app.listen, and then the port is by default 3000. I'll keep it at that, and okay. So this is pretty much a simple HTTP server that I've written using the Faral framework. And let's just take wait, let me just run this, let's be sure that things are working fine before I continue with my talking. That run hello app.dat. Okay, so as you can see, my server is started on port 3000. If I should visit 3000, we can see hello world being printed to, being shown in our browser. That means we are good to go. All right, so let's just take a minute, a quick pause, and then, understand what's happening here. All right, so we get an instance of Faral, and then we say register a route on the base path, which it gives you, a callback here, and basically this signature returns, it gives you the request, the current request that we are handling, and then a response object that you can use to return your actual response. Okay, so this is pretty much similar to what you would have in Node.js or Express. I hope that makes sense. All right, so this is basically the simplest form of a Faral application you can have. All right, so the next thing I wanted to talk about that the framework has, I really thought about that when I was writing this, was how to do middlewares. Most of the things that we want to do is like authentication, rate limiting, caching, all of these things. And it's pretty much very easy to do middlewares in this framework because, yeah, it's one of the key components. All right, so the simplest form you can define a middleware is to do something like, okay, I'm going to call this log request equal to, let's say, let me call this logger middleware, and then middleware. All right, so in a middleware, the signature that you get is a request, a response, and then you have your next function. Okay, so this is a middleware for you. Okay, so let me just make this typed so that we don't have to deal with dynamics. Response, and then this is supposed to be a next function. All right, so how do I use this? Okay, let's just finish with the implementation for our logger middleware. So in this middleware, what I want to do is I want to log the request headers. For every request that hits our application, I want to log the request headers. All right, so how do we do that? I just need to do to print. I'm just using a simple print for now. Request.headers. And then after I'm done my printing, I need to tell the framework to proceed to the next thing. Yeah. All right, so now we have our middleware, but then we haven't attached it to our Faral instance, our server instance. Okay, so how do we do that? So if you're familiar with Express.js, you have this thing called app.use, and then it gives you the signature, but then I can just take everything away and then just do logger middleware. All right, so in as simple as this, let me move this outside here. It doesn't really matter, but just to keep our code clean and so that it makes sense to you. Yeah. All right, so I have an instance to Faral here, and then I'm telling it to use this middleware, which basically just prints any request that hits our application, the headers that are attached to that request, and then it tells the framework to move to the next thing. And then we have a registered route here on the base path, which is supposed to return an a text plain response that is hello world with the fire emoji. And then at the end of the day, we just listen, to that port. All right. So this doesn't actually have hot reloading, so you have to kill the server and then start it all over again. Okay. So hopefully if I trigger this response again, we should see something in our console regarding headers. All right, I'll quickly go to my browser and refresh this page, and we should see request headers here. All right, so as you can see, we have request headers here. Let me just pretty print this, dot entries, and then I want to do dot join, and then I want to do /n. Let's have this on multiple lines. Okay, so I need to kill my server. No. Okay, I need to kill my server and then run this all over again. Okay, so my server is started. We should have that printed in the console. Okay. All right, so as you can see here, we have all our requests headers being printed to the console, and that is how easy it is to use this framework to build anything that you want to do. So imagine if I wanted to write a middleware that's supposed to check for a bearer token in the request header. Basically, I just need to do something like this. I can get the token from the headers, and then if I decide to let's just say let's do some basic let me kill this server, and then we can do something like, okay, so I am going to check for a specific value in the header, and that's going to be, let's say, token equal to request.headers, and then I am going to check for, let's say, token. Okay, so if we have a token, if token dot is not empty, let me make this default empty. Actually, you know what, let me make this way. If token equal to now, I want to return return res dot unauthorized, and then if I actually have a token, I want to proceed to the next thing. Does that make sense? So basically, this won't work because I need to do something like next this. yeah, I need to do this. So I need to return next res dot unauthorized, and then inside here I need to just return next. Okay, so I can't really test this in my browser because I have to attach the token. So I'm just going to use my REST API client here, and that should be easy to test. Okay, so let me bring back my terminal, and I'm going to do, let's see. All right, so that's run, and I should have here. Okay, so we have this. All right, so I'm going to call this, and as you can see, it's telling me I am unauthorized. I can't access that because of this we've done here. Does that make sense? Okay, so what am I supposed to do now? I have to go to my request headers, and I can basically just clear everything, single thing here, and then just say token, and my token is supposed to be some random string like foo bar, and we should be good now. Okay, that still didn't work. What's happening? What am I missing? Headers, token, foo bar. Okay, so let me expect the headers here. All right, so we have our token here. Oh, this is supposed to be lowercase. Okay, so this is supposed to be lowercase. All right. Funny how I missed that. All right, so when I run this, I need to kill my server and start all over again. And when I should run this, we can see we have a hello world, and when I uncheck this, you can see we have unauthorized. So it's as simple as that to use this framework to build pretty much anything you want to do. Everything is basically functions, and yes, the framework works. And what else do I want to talk about in Faral? Yes. So the framework, I wrote the routing myself because yes, I also wanted to know what it feels like to write an HTTP router. It was fun to do, though there was a lot of edge cases to handle, but it was fun. It was definitely fun to write this. Okay, so what else do I want to talk about? Let's see. I really want to get this out of the way because I'll probably not make a video about this. It's a library. You can really use it to build your own backend framework. This is what I'm using in my framework that I'll talk about in the close to the end of this video. It has a bunch of things, so I can actually do like grouped routes. I can group things. So let's say I just want to have, let's say, a router, some other routes. I can make a whole router like this, and then I can give it something like get, and okay, so this should be a double so that we have the instance of the router again. And I'm going to do on the base route, I want you to return res.ok foo. Actually, let's do some JSON. Let's do some JSON. Let's play with some JSON data. I want to do foo bar, and then I want another on a post to that same path. Let's see, I want to do res.json user created, and then all right, so I have a router now. How do I attach it to the main Pharaoh instance so that we can, let's say, on some namespace, let's say I want to do app.group, and then I can put it on users, and then I can have my router here. So I can rename this to user group, user router. Naming really sucks. Okay, so I can have this, and if I should run my application, that's run hello app, we should have something that works. All right, so let's see if our base, this is going to be noisy at this point. I really don't want to log anything. I just want to check for my auth token. That's run. Oh, come on. That's run. Hello world. I've done that. Okay, so let me zoom this out. Okay, so this is our application, and basically we're going to test this now. So when I run this, I get unauthorized. That still works. If I send my token, we get hello world. All right, so I want to test my route group, basically, which is the user router. So I need to be on my users path, and then when I should call this, it should tell me full bar. That absolutely works. That works, people. That really works. All right, so I want to move to the next thing and test my post request, which should basically not check anything, just tell us user created. And as you can see, user created the headers. It's the type, content type is application JSON, and then we have, content length powered by Faral. We have our data here. All right, guys, so this is all nice and dandy. How do we write tests for this? Yes. How do we test our code? Okay, so the framework also has taken care of, testing, because I wrote a testing framework that should allow you to have a simple and easy testing experience. I really paid attention to, the details and, the pain points with testing that backend applications. I've played with a couple of, existing solutions, and yes, it's just too many foot guns. Like, you have to read a whole fucking lot. So let's just get right into the testing. Okay, so I am going to, for my testing, I'm going to move this. How do I do this? Okay, let me move Pharaoh app outside here, and then we call it juice app. Let's just call it this, let's just get fancy. And then I'm going into my test here, and I'm going to do hello app, come on, test dot. And then basically this is just going to be, same way you write test. All right, so for the first thing, what do I want to do? I want to do should return. Okay, so what do I want to do? Should error when no token, in header. Okay, so I can get my app instance from here. I can get hello app as app, and then I can do. All right, so I let me just quickly talk about the testing framework that I wrote. It's called Spooky. So Spooky is this library that you can use to test applications that you write using Faral. It's pretty straightforward, and let me quickly search Spooky. All right, so yeah, this is Spooky for you. And Spooky is this framework that's supposed to make your testing very easy and sweet. Yeah, this is what a sample test look like, and we're going to write actual tests for this. It's funny how I've spent a lot of time trying to build, and I just haven't got enough time to talk about these things, and I just felt like today is a right day. Today is the start of the year, and yes, if you are making plans, what languages look promising and what things to start gearing up for, I think that for backend is one of those things that is looking promising this year, with industry players moving into the deployment space. Yeah, it's looking pretty great. I think that for backend is going to be one of those things that really tops for this year. All right, so let's get into the testing. Okay, so we're going to use Spooky. So basically you'd be writing something like this. Okay, so Spooky gives you this request function that takes an instance of your Fire application, and then it knows how to handle the rest. So I can just pass my juice app here. All right, so this syntax is pretty, sometimes I feel like I really don't like, not like I don't like, but it kind of feels weird sometimes that you have to write await, and yes, these are actually futures that need to resolve first. Do you get? That's where I'm waiting, but maybe I would rethink how maybe we should just have one single await here, but let's see. All right, so when you have this, you would have a spooky instance. So this gives you spooky. So spooky has helper methods that you can use to test your application. All right, so I'm going to we registered on the base path issued. So when we do get, we want to expect the header, expect status to be unauthorized, should be http status dot unauthorized, and then we want to expect the body to be unauthorized. Hopefully that is what. And then after that, I want to write dot test. Okay, so this is what it looks like to write test for your Faral application. This is what it looks like to write your test for your Faral application. This is all I need to write. We are calling the path, we are expecting the status, and then we are expecting the body. And the fun part about this whole thing is, for me, is the fact that you can just chain a bunch of things, and it just works. It tests every single one of them. You get? So how do I run that? That's test, and then I want to do hello app test. This one. Oh, come on, that sucks. Okay, that test. This would fail. I need to go into my test directory, go into hello. Okay. Alright, so the test failed. Okay, so it's telling me unauthorized 401 actual 404. Why is that? No, this 404 means not found. Why? Oh, this is the reason. So we have just a dead instance here, like it doesn't have any thing. So yes, okay, we are going to do this. So let's say we are going to return Faral here. Get juice app, and then we're going to move everything inside here. So let's just return juice app. All right, so we can modify our main function app equal to get juice app, and then we can do this should work. So in my test, what I can do is late Faral, and then I can do my app juice app, and then my setup all. I want to do juice app equal to app dot get juice app. Okay, I really hope this makes sense. This is basic dot what am I doing? Okay, so I just need to move this inside here, and our test should be passing now. Oh, this is too long. Let me just add a break here for simplicity. Okay, so I really don't need this anymore. Let me just move this. We add this for. Actually, let me add this here. Okay, so I can just run my test. That's test. Hello world app, and my test should pass. Oh, what's happening? Oh, it's supposed to be this. Okay, so unauthorized, I can actually do expect JSON body, because this pretty much looks like a JSON kind of a thing. So I can do error, and then that should be unauthorized. Okay. Whoa, that was good. So my test is passing now. All right, so I'm just basically going to duplicate this test again, and then shoot success when token provided in header. Okay, so basically I need to pass a token in my header to do token, and then some token. It's just any random value, and then we expect the body. It's no longer a JSON. It should be hello world. And remember, we have an emoji in our application here. I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. And when I run this, this should work. Oh, come on. Oh, I forgot the status code. Okay. All right, people. So as you can see, it's pretty much very easy to write tests in this library. Yeah, if you're looking to build any backend application right now in Dart, this is the best thing that can happen to you. You get it's worth all your lunch money. And yes, it has a good amount of tests, and I really encourage anybody to really take a look at this library and tell me what they think. All right, so enough of Faral. I think this basically should convince you now. If you aren't convinced, then this video is probably not for you. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty much easy to use this framework. It's very easy to write middlewares. It's very easy to do things like you can even chain middlewares. I didn't even talk about that. Okay, so let's say we have another middleware. Let's say logger equal to, actually let me rename this to auth middleware, and then I can have my logger middleware again, rec res, and then my next. Okay, so let's just say I want to give this some type like request, because I don't want to be dealing with dynamic types, And then I want to do, what do I want to do? I just want to print request dot the body, and I just, after that I want to go to the next thing, proceed, continue execution. I can do, auth, I can do logger dot chain, and then I can pass this. Does that make sense? So the framework actually allows you to chain requests. I can run this, and as you can see, my tests are still passing, and then it's logging the request body, and you can see it is now. So I really, experimented a lot with paradigms, trying to figure out what I think works best and will increase developer productivity. And I'm very confident enough to tell you that for backend is viable. It's a viable solution, and it's here, and you should give it a try. All right, enough of the whole Faral talk. If you're interested in, trying this out, the library is pretty much open source. It's on pub.dev. You can, go check out this library and start building something. And if you do have issues, I do have time today. I can take a look at that. And yes. All right, so let's get to the interesting part. So that's about Faral. It's pretty much easy to serve a bunch of requests and write a couple of middlewares, do things like authentication, and off you go. But then at the end of the day, after I was done building this, I realized that the existing solutions and that actually works. Do you get? They work, but at the end of the day, people need to be able to talk to a database. People need to be able to talk to, caching services like Redis, use things like Memcached, and do all of these things. Do you get? Those are like almost the key components in any scalable solution that you'd want to build. And there's no way you can do away with any of those things. All right. And the Dart support for these things are pretty much lacking, The funny thing is you would find a library that does exactly what you do, but then you find that the library hasn't been maintained in 2 years, and the developer is probably has moved on to some other thing, and that goes on to tell you, the amount of efforts that people are putting into the language, but it just feels like they keep building, you know, they keep building for a while, and then maybe they burn out because, you know, people don't come to use the things. People don't test it enough to give them feedback to, you know, to feel like, okay, my work is actually worthy. Like my work is actually being used. Do you get it? It's like they are building for nobody. Like they're building for people not to come and use. Do you get? And also about the sponsorship issue, because these things don't come, you know, easy. You have to take off time that you could have been using to, you know, pursue a job that could pay you something to write this. And at the end of the day, this is open source, and I don't really know if the open source thing is still like a viable, you know, like open source isn't any longer the open source that we used to know, because you pretty much can put your time and hours into something, and you have a bunch of people coming to, you know, just jerk you off like, hey, fix this, fix that. And, you know, at the end of the day, you are just that one person who just sits in somewhere and just writes in a piece of code that a whole other people are using, probably making money out of it, and you don't get shit at the end of the day. Yeah, I don't know if that explains everything, but the support for all these library maintainers doesn't come. Like there were a couple of things, challenges that I encountered trying to build this, make this work, and I needed libraries that already existed. And the shocking factor for me was to realize that, you know, there were once amazing engineers that were championing this language, the Dart programming language, and, you know, they wrote amazing libraries, only for you to realize that 2 years down the line they have all moved on to something else, and, you know, the libraries are just there and there are no active maintenance. Like it's basically dead. It's so sad. I really hope that Google comes in and does something, you know, really revolutionary with this, because yes, we get it that it's Google engineers that are working on this programming language and working on it tirelessly. But then at the end of the day too, people need to come on board and use this language to implement things that probably already exist. For the sake of it, yes, it's a new language. We need to have this in the language so that we can keep people here, so that they just don't ditch the language. Do you get? Somebody has to pay for that stuff. Either it's going to be Shopify that decides to adopt that for their mobile app, and they feel so generous that they're going to be like, okay, let's use that for our backend solution. Is there any solution that we can use now? Obviously not. So let's build one in-house. And they are obviously going to invest money and time into that framework. If it's good enough to solve their problem and they feel generous, they'll be like, hey people, that's people, we are open sourcing this backend framework that we've been using internally. And yes, that's going to drive adoption, because people are going to think like, okay, if someone like Shopify is using that in production heavily, and they're investing this much into the language, then it means it's viable. People aren't going to say, oh, because it's Google engineers that are working on it, people are going to say that, oh, a big player like Shopify is using it. Like I hope you get that idea. I was recently talking to a bunch of people, you know, industry players, trying to present my solution to them, and, you know, get their thoughts on, you know, things that could be done better, maybe, because I pretty much have seen millions of existing solutions, but why is the backend for that thing still a myth? There obviously has to be something, you know. All right, enough of the talking. So shortly after writing this, I realized the real problems, you know. At the end of the day, people need to talk to database. People need to do things like validations. People need you to make the choices so that they don't have to think of anything. They want to trust you to make, you know, all the choices. Like it's been like that across every framework. Look at things like Fastify. Did I just say Fastify? I mean Fast API in Python. Like let's quickly take a look at Fast API. Fast API. The guy that wrote this, I think his name is Tiango something something. He's a freaking awesome dude. Yes, Fast API. I keep confusing this with Fastify. All right, so basically, He has made the choice for you. He has put everything together, from request validations to API documentations to what? Meta programming to all these kind of things. Somebody has already thought about it. How do you run your job queues? He has already figured it out in the framework. You get, he doesn't necessarily have to write the next generation, queuing library. Like, he just has to put the pieces together in a way that makes sense, that will shorten the development time for anybody that wants to use the framework. That's what a framework is. Yes, there were some pieces that he had to write code for, because when you're bringing things together, there might be layers that you have to write to make them work hand in hand. So yes, and there are a bunch of sponsors here. Like, people sponsor good work. Do you get? People sponsor stuff, and then you come into the Dart ecosystem. It's like, well, I wouldn't talk about that. I wouldn't talk about that. I don't really know enough, to talk about the sponsorship in the Dart ecosystem. But whatever it is, I think that companies have to start reaching out, and I don't want to say motivating open source engineers, but something needs to happen. Obviously, something needs to happen, because if we want the language to be sustainable and to grow, these are the things that need to move it. If you ask me right now, Flutter is the only thing that's keeping that relevant, honestly. And the reason Flutter is still an active choice is because the developer tooling in React Native and these other frameworks is shit. Like, I can have my code running today, and then tomorrow I come and then it's some weird error, and then the error doesn't even have any clue to why it is failing to even let me know, okay, I can just go look here and I can fix that. Instead of me focusing on writing my JavaScript React Native code, I am focusing my time trying to understand why Metro Bundler is not doing something, or why the Hermes engine isn't finding some module. Meanwhile, I know very well I have registered the thing, and it's just not working. And I keep telling my colleague engineers that the day React Native tooling decides to be, we are going to cut all that crap and everything is going to feel so good that, even if it breaks, we are going to be reasonable enough to tell you exactly where something broke, so that you can go fix it. At least tell me in a reasonable way that this is what broke, go fix it here. Do you get, like the way Flutter tooling does it? Yeah, so I feel like the day, if we don't push the adoption of the Dart framework through means of supporting open source engineers, then the day Flutter decides to go down, or maybe the React Native community decides to come back to their senses and work on an amazing tooling that makes me not focus on the tooling anymore and just focus on writing my code, then I think everybody's going to ditch Flutter. Yeah, there are obviously other reasons why you wouldn't want to ditch Flutter, but I mean, at the end of the day, if the developer experience is shit, like, who wants to spend his time trying to fix issues that they don't want to deal with? Do you get? Yeah. So I'm pretty much working on another framework. It's actually a framework, not a library anymore. I mean, this is the library. If you just want something bare bone to use, you can live with this. Like, this would work. But then if you want something that, gives you an ORM, you can access, you can talk to any database that you want. You can talk to Postgres, you can talk to MariaDB, you can talk to MySQL Server. You can do all these things. You can, yeah. And you can write tests too. You can do controllers, you can do middlewares. You can send emails, you can do things like job queues and all that stuff. And you even have automated deploys to, that globe, Yeah, I am actively working on that. Probably in the next video, I will talk about that. But then this video is purposely to create the awareness that, that for backend is a viable thing, and, industry players need to come together and then make this happen, because, I mean, yes, the language is amazing, but if if support doesn't come for things like this, then everybody's just going to ditch it and go do something else. You get, like, we've seen enough of libraries already ditched, and the contributors or the supporters are nowhere to be found. Like, they have bills to pay. Obviously, nobody's going to spend their day morning to evening trying to make a Redis driver work when nobody's compensating him. Like, that just won't fly. That just won't work. Yes, I know I'm kind of pissed right now, but I'm not really pissed. It's just the conversation carrying me. Yeah, but yeah, Faral is something that should work, and I've written a good number of tests. I'm really excited about that because it's actually a lot of work trying to write tests and at the same time figuring things out. But more than I had ever thought. It just works. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I'll really like to see what you build. And yes, if you find any issues, any funny behaviors, please don't hesitate to raise an issue, and I'll definitely do my best to look at it. Peace, and do enjoy a brand new day, and thanks for watching this video. Till another video, peace out.